Isaiah 45:2. I will go before thee and make the crooked places straight. I will break in pieces the gates of brass and cut in sunder the bars of iron. Now, this is a great story. It's in Isaiah 45 and it's also in Daniel 5. And I love that because the Bible, it always connects itself to other parts of the Bible. So it's very, very interesting. You never learn everything there is to learn about the Bible. And the more you study, the more you learn. Anyways, this is the story about Isaiah 45. I love this. So there's a kingdom that's inconquerable. You cannot beat this kingdom, okay? And they had gates upon gates upon gates. And what that means about the gates of brass and cut in sunder the bars of iron is they had brass gates, but they had plates of iron over top of that. We're talking impenetrable. Every one of these gates, I think it said it had 52 gates into the city, and every one of the gates had bars of brass, and then over that were big slates of iron. I didn't understand that. I mean, this was you could not conquer this city, okay? And so Nebuchadnezzar, you remember he was turned into, well, basically a cow, we'll put it that way, for 7 years. And then he finally said that the God of Daniel was the true God, and God turned him back into a man. But he was the strongest man in all the nations. He conquered all the other nations. So this place was, you could not conquer it. And the reason I'm telling you this story is because through the power of Jesus Christ, we have the supernatural ability to conquer even those places that we don't think that are conquerable, that we think that there's brass gates, and then on top of that there's iron gates. And I just want to give you the thought in your brain, because it starts there, that you can accomplish it. It can be done. It can happen. And I want to give you that because this year is the year of increase. And in those areas that we haven't seen the increase before, we can have the increase this year. Now, I'm talking about if you have a drug problem, if you have an alcohol problem, if you have a sadness problem, if you have a mental problem, if you have, let's take it down. If you have an organization problem, if you have a weight problem, whatever it is, whatever you're facing, what a marriage problem, a financial problem, that this year you can have supernatural increase. And see, what the enemy does is he tricks us, and he tricks us to think that the gates of brass and the bars of iron are so strong that we can't get past it. And no, most of the time it's unlocked. And all we have to do is step through. And then we can see the increase, and we can be encouraged enough to keep going. And so that's what I'm going to give you today. And so anyway, so you couldn't get through this place. And this guy was named Cyrus. And he was so not that big of a deal that in the history books you really can't find out a lot about him. So, sometimes in the midst of our problems we'll feel small, but when the problem feels so huge, we'll see that's a trick of the enemy, because God has given us the ability to have victory in those places that we seem to think that are insurmountable. That's where we can have the victory. And so once again, I'm talking about breakthrough. And so it says, and I will give you the treasures of darkness, the hidden riches of secret places. Now, not only was this place too big to go through, the river of Euphrates, which was huge, it's the river, the Nile River was huge, went right through the city, all right? So there was no way to get underneath it, to get over it, to get around it, to get through the gates. And what Cyrus did was really, really brilliant. He stopped the river and made it go into a big lake. And he marched right underneath the city, which is fine. That was a great idea. But how do you get through those gates of brass and the gates of iron? And guess what happened? The king had a big, huge party. And he decided that it was smart to get everybody drunk. The whole nation. Not drunk for a day, but they had a drunken bash for days. And even the guards were drunk. And so the guards were so drunk, they didn't lock the gates. Now, how did Cyrus know to go through at that year, at that month, at that day, at that moment, that those gates were open? How? How did that happen? And he came through and he conquered the whole nation. And he tore down the strongest nation in the whole world. And every stronghold in our lives is accomplishable, it's doable, we can have success even in those places. And that's what that beautiful story is about. It says that he gives us victory and supernatural strength, even where we feel weak and even where we feel there is no victory. And that's what he's promised us. But thanks be unto God, who always leads us to triumph in Christ. How many times? Always leads us to triumph in Christ. He gives us the victory.